Ah, the game of manipulation. They thought they had you, didn't they? Like a puppet on strings, dancing to their twisted tune. They relished in their ability to twist your mind, to toy with your emotions, to make you question your worth. They thought they had all the power, that you were too weak, too naive, too vulnerable to ever escape their grasp. But here you stand, unbroken, unbowed, and no longer their pawn. They believed they could shape you, mold you, break you, and then rebuild you into someone who served their purpose. They thought you'd always be there, following the script they wrote for you, living the life they designed for you, never questioning, never rebelling, just blindly following, like a drone, like an object meant to be controlled. But what they didn't see, what they failed to realize in their arrogance, was that there is a fire within you, a strength they couldn't see, couldn't understand. A strength that over time began to grow until it became something they could no longer control. You were never as fragile as they thought. You were never as weak as they believed. They underestimated the depth of your resilience, the strength of your spirit. They thought they could keep you in a cage of their creation, but the door to that cage was never truly locked. You were always free, always capable of breaking out of their lies and manipulation. They thought you were their possession, but in reality, you were simply playing a part, biding your time until the moment came for you to break free. The manipulation they used against you, the lies they told, the tricks they played, it all had a purpose for them. It was never about you. It was about their own need for control, their need to feel powerful, to feel important. They made you feel small, insignificant, unworthy, just to inflate their own sense of superiority. They tore you down piece by piece, convincing you that you weren't enough, that you were broken beyond repair. And for a while, you believed it. You questioned your own value. You doubted your own strength. You let their words, their actions, seep into your soul. But something happened, didn't it? Somewhere deep inside, a realization dawned. You began to see through their lies. You started to understand the manipulation for what it was. A desperate attempt to keep you under control. They didn't have power over you. They never did. You were always the one with the power. They tried to break you, but instead, they made you stronger. With every word they spoke, with every action they took to undermine you, they were forging a new version of you, a version that was stronger, wiser, and ready to stand tall. You learned over time how to recognize their tactics. You learned how to see through their false promises, their empty words. You became immune to their gaslighting, their guilt trips, their emotional manipulation. You began to see that the only power they had over you was the power you gave them. You were not weak, you were simply unaware. You were not fragile, you were just trusting. And once you opened your eyes, once you recognized the game they were playing, everything changed. They can't manipulate you anymore. They can't twist your mind. They can't control your emotions. They can't make you feel small. They are powerless now. And now, as you stand in the aftermath of their manipulation, they feel defeated. They feel the sting of their own failure. They see that their tactics no longer work, that their words have lost their power. They thought they could break you, but they failed. They thought they could control you, but they were wrong. Now, they see you standing tall, unyielding, and it's a bitter pill to swallow. They can't stand the sight of your strength, the sight of your independence. It's not just a defeat for them, it's a humiliation. They thought they had you in their grip, that you would never escape their control. But now, they are the ones left with nothing. The puppet master has become the puppet, and it is a sight they never expected to see. They believed they could keep you down, that they could bury you beneath the weight of their manipulation. They thought you would remain lost in their web of lies, forever bound to them, forever dependent on them. But instead, you found the truth. You saw the threads of control they had woven, and you pulled at them, one by one, until the whole web unraveled before their eyes. And in that moment, they lost everything. Their control, their influence, their power. They can't manipulate you anymore, and that is their defeat. They thought they knew you, thought they understood your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities. They thought they could exploit your fears, your insecurities. They thought they could use your love, your loyalty, your trust against you. But in doing so, they only revealed their own weakness. They showed their desperation, their need for control. And in trying to control you, they lost their own sense of self. They became so focused on breaking you that they forgot to protect themselves. And now, they stand broken, defeated by their own hand. The truth is, they never had control over you. They never had power over you. The only thing they had was their ability to make you doubt yourself. The only thing they had was the ability to make you question your worth. But now, you know better. Now, you see the truth, and that truth has set you free. They can't manipulate you anymore, and now they feel the weight of their own failure. Now, they feel the sting of defeat, the ache of knowing they've lost the one person they could never truly control. You. It wasn't easy. You had to fight. You had to endure. You had to face the lies, the betrayal, the deceit. You had to dig deep within yourself to find the strength to break free, but you did it. And now, as they watch you stand strong, as they watch you reclaim your power, they are left to grapple with their own defeat. They can't manipulate you anymore, and it's a bitter truth they can't escape. So stand tall, stand proud. Know that you are no longer their puppet, no longer their victim. You are free, and that freedom is your victory. You've broken their hold, shattered their illusions, and now you are the one in control. They can't manipulate you anymore, and that is their defeat, not yours. They thought they had you, but they never did. And now, they are left to face the consequences of their own actions, while you walk away, stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. The game is over, and you are the one who emerged victorious. They can't manipulate you anymore, and that is all the power you need. You are no longer their victim. You are no longer their pawn. You are free. You are strong. You are victorious. They can't manipulate you anymore, and that is their defeat. They underestimated you. All along, they believed that you were nothing more than a puzzle they could easily solve, a story they could rewrite at will. But what they failed to realize is that your story was never theirs to manipulate. They may have tried to mold you into their version of what you should be, but in reality, they were shaping the very thing that would eventually undo them. The more they pushed, the more they tested your limits, the more they drew out the power that lay dormant within you. For a time, it felt like you were lost in their fog. They wove lies like threads in a tapestry, creating an illusion that you were forever entangled, that your every thought and action was under their control. They used your trust as a weapon, your love as a tool to manipulate and shape your decisions. They made you believe that without them, you were nothing, that you needed them to define who you were, to give you direction in your life. But there was always something within you, a flicker of resistance that refused to go out. Even in your weakest moments, when you felt the pull of their influence and doubted your own worth, something inside you whispered that you were more than what they made you believe. Deep down, you knew that this wasn't the life you were meant for. You weren't meant to be their puppet, tied to their strings. You were meant for something greater, something beyond their twisted little game. What they failed to grasp was that while they were busy controlling your movements, you were learning. You were watching. You were absorbing. And with each passing day, the mask they wore began to crack. The cracks grew wider until there was no pretending anymore, no hiding behind the walls they built to contain you. They could no longer fool you with their lies, their empty promises. You began to see them for what they really were: small, insecure people, hiding behind a facade of control, desperately trying to cling to the power they thought they had over you. As the manipulation continued, something beautiful happened. You started to realize that the more they pushed you, the more they tried to break you down, the more you were becoming the person they feared. You were becoming the person they could no longer control. They thought they were the masters of the game, but in reality, they were just pawns in a larger scheme. And you were the chess player. They didn't realize that their attempts to break you down were actually making you stronger. Every time they tried to tear at your confidence, every time they undermined your self-worth, you grew more resilient. The cracks in their control revealed the cracks in their own psyche. The more they sought to manipulate you, the more they exposed their own weaknesses, their own fears, their own lack of self-understanding. And in doing so, they became the ones trapped in their own web of deceit. You weren't just breaking free from their grasp, you were shattering the very foundation of their manipulation. You were taking back everything they tried to steal from you: your power, your identity, your voice. You were remembering who you were, who you always had been, before they ever had the chance to twist you. You were finding your own truth, your own path, and in doing so, you were leaving them behind, stranded in their own web of lies. There's something profoundly liberating about the moment you realize that you are no longer at the mercy of someone else's control. You stop questioning yourself. You stop doubting your instincts. You stop believing the false narrative they created for you. And when that moment comes, it's like a light being switched on. Suddenly, the world looks different. The weight that was once on your shoulders lifts, and you see things clearly for the first time in so long. They are the ones in the dark now, stumbling, grasping for control they no longer have. In their desperation, they may try one last time to reel you back in. They may use guilt. They may try to appeal to your compassion, your sense of loyalty, your desire to see the best in others. They might tell you they're sorry, that they were just trying to help, that they never meant to hurt you. But you know better now. You see through their manipulations, their empty words. You know that their apologies are nothing more than a last-ditch effort to regain the control they lost. And you know that you don't need them anymore. The truth is, they never really had control over you. It was an illusion they created to keep you dependent, to keep you small. They needed you to believe they had the power, that you were incapable of standing on your own. But the real power was always within you. It always had been. They just made you forget it for a while, but no more. Now that you've seen through their game, there's no going back. You can't unsee the truth. You can't pretend that the manipulation never happened, but you also know that the manipulation has no power over you anymore. You've learned the game, and now you play it by your own rules. They may still try to reach out, to pull you back into their orbit, to reignite the flames of control. But you know better now. You've seen the price of their manipulation, and you refuse to pay it any longer. You refuse to give them your energy, your time, your trust. The more they push, the more they try to drag you back, the clearer it becomes that they are the ones who are lost. As you walk away from them, you understand that their defeat is not just in the loss of your control, but in the loss of something much deeper. They are defeated because they are still bound by their own need to manipulate, their own insecurities, their own fear of being powerless. You've taken your power back, and in doing so, You've exposed the truth about them. They thought they could control you, but in the end, they couldn't even control themselves. Now, they stand in the ruins of their own manipulation, wondering where they went wrong. The walls they built around themselves to keep you in check are crumbling, and they have no idea how to rebuild them. They thought they could break you, but instead, they've broken themselves. You are the one walking away, free, stronger, wiser, more powerful than you've ever been. And they are left to pick up the pieces of their own shattered illusions. They can't manipulate you anymore. They can't control you. They can't break you. The game is over. And you are the one who won. They once believed they could break you down. Every attack, every comment, every whispered lie, they crafted it carefully to make you doubt yourself, to make you believe that their version of reality was the only one that mattered. They were skilled at what they did. They knew how to make you question everything. Your worth, your abilities, your place in the world. They made you feel like an outsider, like you didn't belong, like you were always on the verge of losing everything if you didn't follow their rules, their script. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, something inside you began to shift. A small, imperceptible change at first, but it grew and grew, until one day, you realized you no longer feared their control. In their mind, you were their creation. A blank canvas they could paint however they wanted. They could manipulate your thoughts, your choices, your relationships, until you were a shadow of who you were meant to be. They believed that as long as they had the right leverage over you, they could bend you to their will. They knew what you wanted. They knew what you feared. They knew how to play your weaknesses like an instrument, to keep you just close enough to their grasp, always needing more, always hoping for something that would never come. But what they never accounted for was your inner strength, the unspoken power that you carried. No matter how deep they dug, no matter how many lies they fed you, there was always something that would rise within you, an undeniable force, a reminder that you were not meant to be broken. You were not meant to bend to their twisted designs. As the manipulation progressed, something remarkable happened. The lies they told started to crumble under the weight of your self-awareness. Every false promise they made, every time they tried to convince you that they were your only source of safety, it all began to lose its shine. The fear they had used to control you began to fade, replaced by clarity, by the understanding that you had more within you than they had ever acknowledged. You had been holding back for so long, listening to their voices, their commands, their demands. But now the silence between their words became a space where your own voice began to emerge. At first, you resisted the temptation to listen to that voice. It was quiet, almost like a whisper, as if it had been buried deep within you for years. You had to listen carefully to hear it, but over time, as the manipulation became clearer and clearer, that voice grew louder, more insistent, more confident. You knew it wasn't the voice of defiance for the sake of rebellion. It was the voice of truth, the voice that reminded you of who you were before they ever came into your life, before they tried to twist your every thought, before they made you feel that you weren't worthy of anything more than the little crumbs they threw your way. They thought they could break you, but they didn't understand that they were only forging your strength. With every manipulation, every lie, every twisted tactic they used to keep you under their thumb, they were making you stronger. They thought they were breaking you down, but in reality, they were building a foundation of resilience within you. Each time they tried to control your emotions, each time they tried to convince you that you were nothing without them, it made you realize that you could stand alone. You didn't need them. You never did. They didn't know the power of standing alone. They didn't understand that strength didn't come from being surrounded by others who told you what to do. Real strength came from the ability to trust yourself, to make decisions that aligned with your values, and to reject the voices that tried to drag you down. The moment you realized that you were capable of standing on your own, everything changed. The chains they had placed on you were suddenly visible for what they were, thin threads, easily severed by your newfound strength. The manipulation, which once seemed so insurmountable, now seemed like a series of feeble attempts to regain control over you. It was almost laughable. They tried to play the same games, the same tactics that had worked in the past. But this time, they were met with resistance. This time, they were faced with someone who had learned their tricks, someone who had broken free from their hold and was no longer afraid. You no longer feared their rejection. You no longer feared their disapproval. You no longer feared their threats or their guilt trips. The power they once had over you was now gone. You had become immune to their manipulation. They couldn't control you anymore, and in that realization, they began to feel the tremors of their defeat. Their tactics were as old as time itself. They played on your emotions, on your fears, on your desires. They made you feel guilty for things you hadn't done, ashamed of things you had no reason to be ashamed of. They used love as a weapon, twisting it, warping it, making you believe that the only way to be loved was to submit to their will. They made you believe that love and loyalty meant sacrificing yourself, that your identity didn't matter as long as you were giving them what they wanted. But all along, you were giving away pieces of yourself without realizing it, pieces that, once gone, seemed irreplaceable. What they didn't realize, though, is that love isn't about submission. It isn't about control. Real love is about freedom, about respect, about mutual understanding and care. They didn't love you. They loved what they could control, what they could manipulate, what they could own. And the moment you realized that, the moment you understood the difference between real love and the twisted version they had shown you, was the moment you truly began to reclaim your power. The more they tried to manipulate you, the more they exposed their own insecurities. They were never as powerful as they thought they were. They needed you to believe they were strong, that they had the upper hand. But the truth was that their power was always an illusion. They were only strong when you believed you were weak. They were only powerful when you allowed them to be, but no more. Now, their words hold no weight. Their actions are hollow. They can scream, they can shout, they can throw their tantrums, but it no longer matters. They've lost. They thought they could keep you in the shadows. They thought they could make you feel like you didn't belong in the light. But now, you are walking toward that light, step by step, with confidence, with clarity, with power. And they, the manipulators, the controllers, the abusers, are left in the dark, clutching at the remnants of their failed influence. As you walk away from them, you realize that the battle wasn't just about breaking free from their manipulation. It was about discovering who you really were underneath all their lies, all their control. It was about finding your true self, reclaiming your voice, and learning how to live for yourself and no one else. The more you walk toward your own truth, the more you shed the skin of the person they tried to make you, until you stand tall in your authenticity. They can no longer manipulate you because they no longer know who you are. The person you were when they first tried to control you no longer exists. You are something new, something stronger, something they could never have anticipated. You are no longer a puppet. You are the one pulling the strings. They are defeated, not just because they lost control over you, but because they have lost the one thing that could have saved them, themselves. They are trapped in their own lies, in their own games, and as they struggle to regain the power they once held, you have already moved on, leaving them behind in the dust of their own failure. They thought they had you, but they never truly did. The manipulation is over. You've broken free, you've reclaimed your power, and in doing so, You've become stronger than ever before. They thought they could control you, but in the end, they were their own undoing. And you are the one who walks away victorious.